There are some stories, some places that just feel different, as if the normal rules of the world don't quite apply there. Today, we're diving headfirst into one of the most powerful and enduring legends of our time. Our story starts on a clear afternoon. Picture it, December 5th, 1945. Florida. The Second World War is finally over, and for the pilots at this naval air station, the mission ahead is nothing special. Just a routine training flight in a new time of peace. Or so they thought. At 2:10 p.m., 5 Navy bombers, known as Flight 19, lift off from the runway. But just under 2 hours into the flight, things start to go terribly wrong. The flight leader radios in. His compasses are failing. By late afternoon, he's dangerously lost, convinced they're somewhere over the Gulf of Mexico. It was a fatal mistake. He orders his planes to fly east, deeper and deeper into the vast Atlantic. As darkness falls and the weather turns, a final, fading transmission crackles over the radio. And then, nothing. Just silence. Can you just imagine the sheer helplessness in that moment? This wasn't a single failure. It was a total breakdown. With no working instruments and no horizon to guide them, they were flying completely blind in an endless, empty expanse of sky and sea. We don't know which way is west. Let that sink in for a moment. That was one of the last things anyone ever heard from them. It's the sound of losing your most fundamental bearing, the sound of absolute uncertainty broadcast from a ghost flight that was already lost to the world. And the tragedy didn't end there. In fact, it was about to get worse. A massive rescue plane, a Mariner with a crew of 13, was sent to find them. But just minutes into its search pattern, it too simply blipped off the radar, vanished. No distress call, no debris. By the end of a single day, 6 aircraft and 27 men were gone. And right there, in that moment of profound shock and mystery, the legend was truly born. These disappearances became the foundation for a modern myth, all centered on this one patch of ocean that seemed to just swallow planes and ships whole. And the scale we're talking about is just immense. This isn't some small corner of the sea. We're talking about 500,000 square miles of the Atlantic, an area that was about to become a graveyard in the public imagination. And people started looking back, realizing that Flight 19, it wasn't the first. They found the story of the USS Cyclops from way back in March 1918. This thing was a colossal Navy supply ship, one of the biggest afloat. It sent one last routine message: weather fair, all well. And then it was just gone. 306 people vanished with their ship. But maybe the most bone-chilling tale of them all is the one about a ship called the Ellen Austin from 1881. As the story goes, its crew found another vessel just drifting in the ocean, completely deserted. They put a small salvage crew on board to sail it to port. But then a storm hit, separating the two ships. When the Ellen Austin found the ghost ship again, it was empty. Their salvage crew had vanished. I mean, that's a tale that sends a shiver down your spine, right? A perfect ghost story of the sea. But this is the exact point where the legend starts to fall apart. And we have to ask the question, is it actually true? Well, when you start digging, you find out the story of the Ellen Austin is almost certainly just that, a story. A fantastic sea yarn passed from sailor to sailor, getting bigger with every telling. Because when you look for actual proof, shipping logs, official records, there's simply nothing there to back it up. Now, that's not to say there isn't something scientifically interesting going on here. The triangle is one of the very few places on Earth where a compass needle can point to true north, not magnetic north. For us today with GPS, it's no big deal. But for a navigator back then, with failing equipment and in a panic, that small difference could cause deadly confusion. And you start to realize this area isn't so much mysterious as it is just uniquely treacherous. I mean, it's a hurricane hotspot. It's home to the Gulf Stream, a massive current like a river in the ocean that can scatter wreckage for miles. And huge parts of it are deceptively shallow, hiding shoals that could tear a ship apart. It's a perfect storm of natural dangers. Then there's this really fascinating geological idea. The seabed in this region has huge deposits of what are called methane hydrates, basically gas trapped in ice. The theory is that if this gas were to erupt suddenly, it could create a massive patch of foamy, aerated water with almost no density. Any ship sailing over it would lose all buoyancy and just drop. It would sink like a rock in seconds, with no time to even send a distress call. Now, while that is a real scientific phenomenon, we have to be clear, and this is a critical but. It's still just a hypothesis. There has never been a single piece of direct evidence, no smoking gun, that links a methane eruption to any of the famous disappearances in the Triangle. It's a possible explanation, not a proven one. So if it's not aliens or sea monsters, what's the most powerful force at play here? Well, it might actually be something inside our own minds. It's called the Baader-Meinhof effect. You know how it works? You learn about a new model of car, and then all of a sudden you start seeing that car everywhere. The cars were always there. Your brain has just been trained to notice them.
And that is the real secret of the Bermuda Triangle. The mystery was never a pattern of events. It was a pattern of attention. Once the legend had a name, our brains drew a circle on the map. Every accident that happened inside that circle became more proof of the myth, while similar tragedies just outside of it were, well, they were just tragedies. They were ignored.
And when you turn to the experts, the legend really starts to dissolve. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, is very clear. They say there is simply no evidence that mysterious disappearances happen more often here than in any other large, heavily traveled part of the ocean. And here's the final word from the people who actually perform the rescues. The U.S. Coast Guard doesn't even recognize the Bermuda Triangle as a real geographic area of specific hazard. To them, the losses come down to simple math: a huge area, plus a ton of traffic, plus famously violent weather. But maybe the most telling piece of evidence came in 2013. The World Wildlife Fund did a major study to identify the 10 most dangerous bodies of water for shipping in the entire world. In the Bermuda Triangle, the most supposedly dangerous place on the planet wasn't even on the list. Which leaves us with one last lingering question. The evidence is clear. The science is logical. The mystery is, for all intents and purposes, solved. So why does the legend live on? If the triangle isn't real, why do we need it to be? Perhaps it's because the world feels a little too explained sometimes, and we still have a deep human need for a few places left on the map where mysteries and maybe even monsters might still exist.